It's Wake Up Worlds Quarterfinals, Day 4. G2 defeat Gen.G to proceed into Semifinals. Did Caps have one of the best Worlds performances ever? We've picked our top 5 players of the quarterfinal stage. Who made the cut? And join us for a look ahead at Semifinals next weekend.
Gen.G as they push forward, but the solar flare finds 3 on the backline is a double for Caps, and the curtains have opened. And perhaps this is the encore that Perks was looking for. BDD sniped down, a triple for Caps. Add more pages to the book. He going in with the sun card once again onto Yekos, but Clint, look how low he is. Wonder slices and dices up Gen.G. 2 quick kills to G2, and Rascal is running for the hills, but the Stormbringer is brought down. For the final act of this fight, Stormbringer in from Caps, destroys the turret and dives back in. Kingslayer's going to keep him alive at the moment, but look at the damage that Ruler can do already. 3 down. G2 rip. Gen.G asunder. Rascal dived on. Quickness being used as well. Rascal doesn't have anyone to help him, doesn't have anywhere to go. He's down. Caps used the lemon split to keep himself alive. Yakos on the chase. Clint has died. Life has died. G2 have done it. Gen.G, unless Ruler and BDD can pull a rabbit out of a hat, they are done.
Day 17 of the World Championship is in the books, and we're here to break it all down. It's Wake Up Worlds. Welcome one, welcome all to Wake Up Worlds, our ESPN Esports Daily League of Legends World Championship program. Thank you so much for watching us live on Twitch and on YouTube. He's Tyler, I'm Arda, and we are here with you every step of the way until a world champion is crowned. And still, EU hopes are alive after a decisive sweep. G2 disposing of Gen.G to move on to the semifinals to set up the rematch from last year that pretty much everybody wanted to see, including the players involved. We'll get to that in a second, Tyler. But in terms of hopes for the West, G2 certainly carrying them strong.
Yeah, again, pretty much everything I said yesterday in the short preview in our official preview show about a week ago kind of rang true for this series. I said that if Ruler could get to 3 to 4 items and be around, 1K, 2K goal deficit, Gen.G is going to be happy. They're going to be happy playing the rigid style that they are known for, and they've won 2 world championships in 2014 and 2017. Both around, hyper scaling 80 carries. 2014, it was Imp. 2017, it was Ruler himself. And they made another world final in 2016 playing the same Gen.G / Samsung style. But as we've seen time and time and again, G2 don't play by the rules. They expertly knew what Gen.G's win conditions were. They knew where they were going to play around. They knew where they wanted to go in this game. They never let them get there. From 3 games straight of really just smart, intelligent level 1s, forcing Gen.G to always be on the back foot in the laning phase. 3 straight games of level 1s forcing flashes from Gen.G members to picture-perfect mid-game team fights where they were finding pick after pick after pick with their universals. They showed how to use universal ultimates to its highest possibilities. And we saw Gen.G try to do the same, try to pick the Exodia trio of Nidalee, Camille, and TF in game 2 after G2 showed how to play it to perfection in game 1. And they really didn't know how to execute it. Instead of trying to go for picks or for skirmishes, they were trying to use these ultimates for team fightings, for 5-on-5 mid lane team fightings. It was awkward and it just didn't feel right. Gen.G is a team that is at its best when Rascal's on a tank, when Clid and BDD are supporting Ruler, getting him to that late game. BDD's on that fast pushing mage in the mid lane to bring the attention to him and not Ruler. And today it just didn't go well for Gen.G. And I think I like my analogies, Arda. I love my analogies, my metaphors, and my comparisons. I think I found a perfect one for these 2 teams. For Gen.G, they are orchestra music. They are classical music. They are beautiful. It's beautiful to listen to when everything is picture and perfect. Everything has to be the right order for it to be a full orchestra and for it to really have its full effect. And when Gen.G can get everything in line and they can get their blueprint correct, it's a sympathy. It's a sympathy. It's beautiful. It's the highest caliber of music you can listen to because everything is set forth. But if you throw one wrench into their plans, if one string isn't, tightened correctly, or if one player in that orchestra is a bit off, everything falls apart. And that's what we saw today with Gen.G, where that orchestra had issues and G2 kept throwing wrenches in their plan and they didn't know how to rebound from that. Where G2, they're jazz, baby. They are jazz to perfection, Arda, where it's chaotic and beautiful. Sometimes they don't even know really where they're going with these team fights or these skirmishes, but they just riff off it. They're free flowing and it's kind of beautiful chaos, right? It's controlled chaos a lot of times. There are limits, but they keep pushing them and they don't exactly know where these fights are going to head or where it's really going to go, but they have the trust in each other and it's like the whole chemistry of this team who's been together for 2 years now and who've gone through war after war. They believe in each other in even these messiest of moments, even when it feels like Perks is caught out or it feels like Caps is caught out. They are able to turn it around on a dime and kind of improvise. And their improvisation is what makes G2 one of the best teams I've ever seen to watch. That's what makes them one of the most entertaining teams, at least, to ever play League of Legends. And they showcased their improvisation to perfection tonight. And it was intelligence, it was aggressiveness, it was mechanical skill, it was improvisation, it was everything. Tonight, G2 put on a masterclass showing from top down. It was not only from the players, but the analysis of the team, the coaching staff of the team, from Carlos down. G2, this was a full organization win tonight, a 3-0 clean sweep. The sympathy of G2 or of Gen.G was totally crushed. Their violins were snapped in half, and G2 will be playing their jazz music onto the semifinals to play Damwon in one of the most highly anticipated semifinals. No, one of the most highly anticipated best of fives in World's history.
And we can't wait for that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. 83% of you predicted G2 to defeat Gen.G in our ESPN League of Legends Predictor. You can play for free at espn.com/League of Legends Predictor. Or if you have the free ESPN Fantasy app, you click on the trophy tab and it is right there. I have cracked the top 500, Tyler. I am proud of myself with 160 points, baby. Let's go.
All right, it's time for me to look up where I am. I'm 44.
This is like the kids at the kids table that like get to have their fun until the adults show up, and they're just like, all right, we're gonna,
yeah. I'm number 44. I'm in the top 50. I'm in a striking distance of first place going into the semifinals and finals. So good job.
So the semifinals, of course, will begin next week, and you will have all week to make your predictions and make your picks. So even if you haven't started playing, you can start now with the semifinals, and you'll get a whole series of questions there that you can enter for free at espn.com/League of Legends Predictor. Now let's go on to our player ratings. This is based on the quarterfinal series alone. All the G2 and Gen.G players, we have given them a number simply based on this series. Once again, not based on Worlds entirely. Tyler, how do you adjudicate G2 in this series?
It was difficult. They played such a strong game. I mean, if I give the analysts a 10, I'd give them a 10. I'd give Grabs a 10, Duffman a 10, Archer a 10. Like, great job all around from the staff. But for the players, I gave Caps a 10. If I could give him 11, I'd give him 11. He was out of this world. We're going to talk a lot more about Caps later and kind of his historical place in the League of Legends hierarchy and just kind of how he's setting his own legacy and legend in this tournament. But yeah, 10 for Caps. Mickey X, another 10. The improvisation, the jazz-like, free-flowing play of G2 could not be without Mickey X there to clean up the mess when it gets a bit messy. We saw that today, even when Caps was playing one of the best Sylas games, one of the best games, period, I've ever seen of League of Legends. Mickey X was still there to help him and give him the lending hand to get those triple and quadra kills and make sure he was safe in Tom Kench's belly when he could have been blown up. So Mickey X, best support of the tournament for me so far. He's been otherworldly as well. Best support in the world for my money currently at not only the World Championships but in the entirety of League of Legends. Perks a 9, Yanko's a 9, Wonder an 8. Wonder had a few missteps. His Renekton game in the last showing wasn't the greatest, but yet he still had a really good day. No one on G2 had a bad day. They 3-0'd. I think even Wonder himself would be like, I could play a bit better here. for him to go against Naguri next round, that is going to be a highlighted matchup, and he's going to have to be better if they want to win that series, because Naguri is going to put a lot more pressure on him than Rascal did, and Damwon focuses top side, not bomb side. So while this series, it was a lot more about Perks neutralizing a Ruler and not letting him get going. Next round, it's like going to be a lot more about Wonder. So Wonder today had an 8 out of 10, very good day, but an 8 out of 10 versus Naguri, that might be a 3-0, 3-1 loss to G2. Damwon is going to come in hot, and Naguri is a player that if you're not playing at a 10 out of 10 level, he can crush you. So for me, Mickey X and Caps were my players of the day. Caps, incredible. Mickey X, his right-hand man, saving him when he needs to be. Just an all-around really stellar performance by G2. And really, after a very sloppy, very messy group stages, they kind of showed out today and said, yes, we might have played around a bit in the group stage, but it's playoff time now. We see the Thunder's Cup in the horizon. It's time for us to pick up that trophy.
I had very much of the same. I really couldn't give any G2 player less than a 9, only because they were so dominant in this series and it was so impressive. But I agree with you. Caps and Mickey X were the shining stars here, and if we could give Caps an 11, we would. So that's why I adjudicated them the way that I did. I gave them all a 9 because at the end of the day, the team performed so well, and it was like it's nitpicking at this point to give them anything of a lesser score, especially as compared to Gen.G. So that's really why I proceeded in that fashion. Let's move on to Gen.G now. How did you adjudicate them?
Ooh, woof. Ruler is 6. I give him
what more needs to be said?
I give him a lot of credit. Again, he was the win condition of Gen.G. G2 knew this. They focused him hard. He still played his heart out, especially in that last game on Ezreal. I give him a 6 for trying so hard, even though it got him not so far. A 3-0, probably the best. A 6 is probably one of the best scores you can get when you get 3-0. So kudos to Ruler, the franchise player. Even in defeat, I think people still, fully respect him. See him as a top 10 player in the world. He is going to be back at Worlds one of these years, most likely next year. So I'm looking forward to see what we can see more of the former world champion MVP. Life a 3. I thought he got caught out a lot, but I think he wasn't invisible. At least he did have some good moments, some decent moments at best. 3 is not great at all, but it's not the worst on my list. Rascal 5. I actually thought Rascal did fine in the top lane. Probably the crescendo, the peak, the height of Gen.G's day was his triple kill, where he did get into the backline as Volibear in Game 3 to give them a bit of a reprieve. I think overall Rascal had a really strong tournament. He's not the focal point of the team. He's never going to be the focal point of the team when Clid, BDD, and especially Ruler are on the roster. I think he showed out quite well. So while this is the end of Rascal's tournament, I do think he deserves a round of applause for how well he adjudicated himself in this landscape of killer top laners. And then we get to the Clid and BDD. Ones. I thought both of these players had terrible days. They were when they weren't invisible, when they weren't paperweights, they were actual detriments to the team. Watching BDD try to play TF after Caps play TF was shocking. It was bad. Him trying to just port into mid lane and try these 5v5s, it was really sloppy. And I think a lot of that is to the team, right? Like, you can't just blame BDD for these ports. It's a team decision to take these 5-on-5 NA-RAM fights. But it wasn't good. And similarly to Clid, I don't think Jankos had like a god Karsa, or like he didn't go against like the best Jankos day. But even so, I think Clid had a pretty woeful day overall as well. Pretty ineffective. Their the mid jungle synergy there was non-existent. It was just a really bad day overall between those two players, and they could have shot a lot better. I still think BD is one of the better mids in the world, but he got mid gapped, and I think Kirk said that in one of his post game interviews. What was the biggest difference today? And they had the far better mid. And BD is a 3-time LCK MVP, the most MVPs in South Korean history. Well, this guy is legit. Even if you want to make news about him being bad or underperforming at the world stage, he is one of the better LCK, the better South Korean mid laners of all time. And Caps just took him to the cleaners and just beat him down, and it was not pretty. So ones for me for both of those players. I expected a lot more, and because they didn't show up, it was a 3-0.
The only thing I want to add to that, honestly, is that Ruler died on his shield. Like, there were parts of that game 3 where really it felt like Ruler was the only one that was really trying to 1v9 and turn the game around, even though it looked like at times it was insurmountable. Ruler was the one out there really trying his best to get out there and turn the game around and turn fortunes around. But we got to shift our focus to Caps. I mean, listen, Claps. Listen, Tyler, Claps goes back to Caps when he gives the other team the L. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He's such a special player. We've known this for a long time. We got to talk about that 11-0-11 game.
11-0-11, Arda. 11-0-11. A double-double with 0 deaths. That's the perfect game. You can't ask for more.
So our stats and information group actually let us know that 11-0-11 game on Sylas in game 2 was the most kills by a mid laner in a deathless game at Worlds.
Ever?
And he tied, ever at Worlds. Tied the record. And also the second most K kill plus assist by a mid laner at Worlds in a deathless game. Do you want to take a guess who's number 1?
Is it the GOAT? Is it the GOAT, Arda?
It might be the GOAT, man. It might be the
What was it?
It's the NA GOAT himself, Bjergsen.
What?
Had,
what?
11-0-12 on Twisted Fate in 2015 against LGD. So
wow.
So Caps tied the kill record in World's history for a mid laner going deathless. Incredible. And actually, what I wanted to, and I'm still trying to find this out, because Gen.G had like 10 or so kills in that game. Like they had double-digit kills, but Caps still went deathless. So I'm still trying to find out if that is the record for going deathless in a win where the other team had 10 or more kills, like, or the highest amount of kills.
I'd have to presume it was a messy game, but he just didn't die. And I think it was this. Everything he did that game just seemed perfect. And I have to give a lot of credit to, again, Mickey X. Mickey X and Tom Kench made sure that when Caps was close to death, he would gobble him up in the Tom Kench belly. And it was just, but overall, it was individual just mastery. A virtuoso performance. And he's not even playing Jin, but that's a virtuoso performance, Arda. I said it on Twitter, and I will say it again. One of the best individual performances I've ever seen at Worlds, one of the best individual performances I've ever seen in League of Legends. I don't think it was the best. I do think the best performance I've still seen. I went back to watch this game during the 3-0 clap. Because, after game 2, I was like, okay, let me go watch some other League of Legends games of, like, the best performances ever. Let's G2 just clean up, and I watched it on the second monitor. But I still think my number 1 game of all time was in the semifinals of 2017, game 2, RNG are up 1-0 against SKT. Faker on Galio saved his team 1v9. And this was a game where Faker was ultimating and saving pretty much every single player on his team. When it was like Bang was to like 10 health, Faker comes in, turns around a 1v2 and kills 2 people. Like, that game back in Worlds 2017, I was there. It was probably the loudest crowd I've ever been in, Arda. Like, the crowd was thunderous. 17,000. Really? Oh, it was the loudest crowd I've ever been in. It's sporting event. I've been to many traditional sports events. I've been to big football games, big basketball games. Nothing comes close to the 2017 semifinal between SKT and RNG. I mean, scalping tickets were going for $2,000-$3,000 out the door.
Wow.
Like, it was insane. And RNG had the far better team that day. The far, far better team, but Faker's Galio carried them to a 3-2 victory, and especially that game 2, which if SKT lost, they go down 0-2 in that series, they probably get swept. I still have that as my number 1 performance of all time at Worlds, but I think this is definitely top 5, maybe even top 3. This was, in terms of just beauty, of just kind of like savagery. This is like a 70-point game. This is like an NBA 70-point game. This is like a 7-touchdown game from Caps. Like, Faker's was much more nuanced. He didn't have, 20 kills in Galio, but that game for me was better. But in just terms of pure numbers and savagery, as you said, this is the highest, kills without deaths in World's history, alongside that, group stage game Bjergsen had in 2015, which doesn't really matter in the long run. But yeah, it just, in terms of just pure beauty, savagery, stat-wise, this is the perfect League of Legends game. And I think this is a game that we're going to come back 2 years from now and say, this is the Caps game. We're going to think of this is the Caps game where he just took Gen.G, one of the best, a legendary organization, former two-time world champions, ruler, a former world MVP, stars throughout the lineup, and he just cleaned their clocks. He mollywopped them. He smashed them. He destroyed them. He wrecked them. Every other adjective you want to use, every kind of synonym you want to use in this situation, he did it too. Gen.G. He so many verbs you could say about how Caps clapped Gen.G today.
This game got me thinking, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. So this is one of those career-defining games, one of those legacy-building games, right? But when you look at Caps and, thinking about his, whole, I guess, legacy, and we're going to get to this a little bit more in a bit, but I do want to ask, where do you think this game stands in his all-time games? And how much did this elevate him in the best of all time, at least at mid laner conversation, in a game like this?
I think it elevates him if he wins Worlds. I think that's the caveat, right? If they go against Damwon next week and they lose 3-0 or even a close 3-1, 3-2 game, I honestly think maybe we still remember the Sylas game. We still remember the savagery of it, but we don't see it in the same context as we would if he wins Worlds. If he wins Worlds, we look at this game as that kind of that grand moment of him just kind of taking charge and saying, "I'm the best mid laner in the world." It's not Knight, it's not Chovy, it's not Showmaker, it's me, it's Caps. I've been here for the last 2 years. I made 2 World Finals. My third time around, I won it. And if he does that, makes 3 World Finals in a row and finally wins it with G2, the first Western world champion, not counting Fnatic. Sorry, Fnatic, you weren't world champions. You were season champions. You never held the Summoners Cup. If he becomes the first player to hold the Summoners Cup from the West in the mid lane, 3 straight World Finals, his legacy and this game especially just adds to that glory. But it all comes down to how they perform the rest of the way. They can't lose to Damwon. If they lose to Damwon, this game becomes a footnote. It becomes something we remember. It's a fond memory. It's a highlight package that we bring up every few World Championships, but it's not that punch that you always remember, right? Similar to Bjergsen, right? The Bjergsen had that amazing game, but did I remember it? Hell no, because you know what happened in 2015, Arda? TSM didn't go that far. TSM didn't do that well.
History remembers winners.
They went 1-5 that group stage. They won 1 game, better than this Worlds, but they only won 1 game at Worlds last year. And that 1 game was that pop-off moment. I don't remember that game.
Hey, listen, we got a TSM reference in this series, okay? Wonder Flash, the TSM emote. We got a TSM reference. The world is good. Okay, so we'll get to Caps in a little bit in our tweet and delete segment, which is coming up a little bit later. But let's now focus our attention, since we have concluded the quarterfinals here at Worlds 2020. Let's now give you our top 5 players of the quarterfinals. So we're looking at all 4 quarterfinal series, and Tyler and I have put together a top 5 of players at any position. These are just top 5 players. We didn't have a specific criteria. We can explain that if we want along the way, but we're going to go from 5 to 1 and we'll alternate, Tyler. Yeah. So you'll go first, then I go. So let's start at number 5. Who do you have at your number 5 in your top 5 list?
My number 5, I have 369, the man who rolls only 9s this tournament for top esports. His sign play changed the course of yesterday's series. If 369 doesn't play at the level he did yesterday, Fnatic wins that series 3-0 or 3-1. His sign totally and completely changed the course of that reverse sweep that Top Esports pulled off. Top Esports is a team, and I said it on Twitter, I've said it on social media quite often, Knight and Jackie Love might be the greatest 1-2 punch in League of Legends history. And then you bring 369 to the picture, and you might have the best 1-2-3 punch in Worlds history. And he's only adding to his legacy as well, where that big 2 of Knight and Jackie Love is now becoming that big 3 of Knight, Jackie Love, and 369, because he has been one of the best performing players of tops throughout the entire event. So 369 is number 5 for me, Arda. Who's your 5?
I got Karsa, same team. I like this is actually my only representative from TES, and that's probably because in the dramatic way in which they won. He had the highest kill participation in all of the quarterfinal matchups at 84.5%. He won player of the series after the reverse sweep. He was lights out on Lee Sin in games 3 and 5. I really felt like he was an influential figure, much like 369, in TES's reversal of fortunes there. And of course, this is a jungle-focused meta, and he performed greatly, especially in the last 3 games on his on Lee Sin in 2 of those games. And it just looked like there was no answer to that. So that's why I have him at number 5.
Definitely.
Let's move on to number 4. Who do you got there?
Number 4, I got my boy Mickey X from Slovenia out here. G2's support starter. Number 4. Again, I said this during my recap of G2 versus Gen.G. In a chaotic, messy, free-flowing expression of art, G2 are artists. I've said this comparison before. They're the artists of League of Legends, where they paint a picture every time they're on the Rift. And for Yankos, for Caps, for Perks, for Wonder, they're just abstract artists. They're throwing paint around the entire Rift. They don't know where they're going all the time. And Mickey X, for the most part, is the guy that bails them out when they're going outside the lines. When they're close to, just going off the canvas entirely and just kind of, getting ink poisoning. Because when the times go rough and the looks like the painting is going off course, Mickey X is there to kind of steer them in the right direction. And today, again, he was always there when they need them. All the skirmishes, all the last-second heroics with the Tom Kench. Even in lane, I thought he played extremely well. Best support in the world for me right now. Mickey X, number 4, for my quarterfinals top 5 players.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. My top 3, I think, were pretty much set after the G2, obviously in the G2 series, and we'll get to that. But number 4 for me, man, like I was really wavering between Mickey X and the person that I did pick. And ultimately, I guess I just went with Damwon over G2 in this particular case. And so that's why I picked Showmaker. And I think that I had a little bit more of a stats focus. Mickey X was very impressive. I think he might be top 3 or maybe even leading in assists, somewhere very high on the list in the quarterfinals. But Showmaker had the 3rd highest KDA, and he only died once. I felt like he was a very solid player throughout that entire series, won the mid lane matchups consistently against DRX. Now, to be fair, DRX... you can make comparisons on whether like Damwon already had a significant advantage in the DRX.
It was
matchup.
Chovy. It was Chovy though. He beat Chovy. Like you gotta give him credit for that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like he beat the church. He went into the church and he just stole the congregation. You know?
Vatican City is down, Arda. They defeated Vatican City and our Lord and Savior Chovy.
Exactly. And to make a music analogy, Damwon playing against DRX felt like heavy metal. It felt like they were just like ripping through, and I was just headbanging the entire way, and I was like, "Let's go, Showmaker!" Showmaker. Yeah, that is not a copyright strike, by the way. I just made up that song. That does not have any likeness to anything. So that's why I picked Showmaker. But Mickey X, like you said it on Twitter, and I think it's I actually wonder, and maybe it changed a little bit with this meta. But remember when we were talking about the top 20 players and how we had this like the conversation about that there being no supports on the list.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
We were sort of debating.
You messed up there.
Yeah, but like I think that you're right. Like maybe this, like especially with the way Mickey X played, like maybe more recognition should be placed upon the supports, and
especially in this meta.
A little bit
in this meta where it's a lot about the roaming support in the duo with the jungler. Having a bad support just equals death pretty much. If you can have a support who can roam and make plays and read the map well when it comes to, do you take Herald? Do you fight for Herald? Do you look for Dragon? Do you play around lanes? Do you try to get extra gold if they take Herald? Like the support is so important in this meta because they're always having to pick the right choice. It's like one of those Goosebumps books, Arda. If you pick the wrong direction, your game's over. And it's a lot about knowing where to be at the right times, and the greatest supports are the ones who can make the plays and be there at the right times for the right Herald fight, for the right rotation. And I think Mickey X has shown alongside players like Beryl have been there at the right time for the majority of the tournament, and they've worked lock in step with their jungler, and they've played very well. So yeah, for me, Mickey X, Showmaker. It's very close. We're going to talk about that semifinal a lot. That is the headline semifinal. Lots of trash talk, lots of bad blood. I cannot wait for that semifinal.
I am so with you, by the way. Like the way that you said how they should promo, they being Riot, pardon me, Riot should promo this. It's so easy to promo this matchup. Oh my gosh.
Get a translator, sit the two teams in front of each other, and just give them mics back and forth and let them get out their emotions. Showmaker has been thinking about this game for over a year. G2 have been trash talking the LCK for over a year. Just put a mic between the 5 players and let them go.
Hallelujah. Let's go. We'll talk about that a lot more later on. Getting to number 3 on the list here. We're at the middle of our top 5. Who do you got?
For me, it's number 3 is Canyon from the heavy metal Damwon. And as you said, it was a thrashing of Piosik, your boy Piosik, in the quarterfinal. Piosik had a very good tournament, a great tournament up to that quarterfinal, but he wasn't enough to kind of even challenge Canyon. Canyon's grave is the best in the tournament. Overall, he's one of the leaders, I would say, as a world's MVP so far. I do think if Damwon makes it to the end and they do win the championship, he's more than likely going to be the MVP, either him and Degree. But just great job by Canyon. He's had no negative games, really. Even their loss against JD Gaming, which didn't really count, because they didn't really qualify for the first seed, he still played well. So overall, Canyon's had almost a picture-perfect tournament. Number 3, he's only number 3 because the 2 players above him had, career days. Like memorable, we're going to remember this in 20 years type of days, where Canyon, another amazing day, another 10 out of 10 day, but it's not a day that we're going to remember the DRX series or his play in the DRX series a year from now or 2 years from now, unless they win the championship, where the 2 players in front of him had those career-making days.
Yeah, I had Canyon number 3 as well, exactly for the reasons you mentioned. He had the most kills in the quarterfinals. He had the second highest KDA behind Caps, and he had the highest experience differential after 10 minutes. Like, he was leading in the stats departments. I'm sure Tim at Oracle's Elixir was just very happy entering all the statistics on Canyon.
I love
going
Tim.
Into this one.
Tim's best.
Yeah, Tim's awesome. By the way, you should follow Tim on Twitter, because he gives like nice, succinct game matchups on like who picked whom and what the big beats of the games were. So definitely worth a follow there for Tim. Also Canadian, so shout out to a fellow Canadian. But yeah, Canyon at number 3, and that leads us to our 1 and 2. And actually, what we should do here, Tyler, because we both have both players in our number 1 and 2. Give us your 1 and 2, and then we'll talk reasons here, because we do differ in our 1 and 2.
For my number 2, I have Hong Feng of Suning, and for number 1, I have Claps, Mr. Caps, the Danish Rocket, in my number 1 position. It's tough. They both had perfect days. They both had 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 days. We're never going to forget the anime-esque opening of the Jin Ultimate in the opponent's base. We're never going to forget the Sylas 11-0-11 game. Both had moments that are going to become iconic in World lore. I went with Caps just because it's really difficult. I think overall, a lot of Suning, again, it really just comes down to, like, I can't be like, oh, Suning was much more of a team effort. No, G2's win was also a lot of a team effort. It was both teams enabling Sylas or Caps, and both teams enabling the Jin to do well in these situations. I guess for me, I think it's going back to, I think I have a little bit more confidence in Caps that he can keep it up. I'm not saying Wong Feng is going to kind of fall down in the semifinals against Jakulov. I just think it's more sustainable, and Caps has been here before. I have more confidence putting Caps as my number 1 player just because I know he can replicate this. And maybe I'm a bit juiced up because this game was today and Suning's game was 2-3 days ago. If you flip the days and Hwang Feng's game was today, maybe he's number 1 for me because it's the last thing on my mind. But for me right now, I just can't get over that mid-game team fight of Sylas where he's shrunk down to 10 health. He Zonia's a spear. He comes in he steals the Ash Arrow. Like, he gets a triple kill due to Mickey X gobbling up. Like that. Like, just go look at that team fight over and over and over again. It's been the Korean has like a in-depth of like version of like how that went to be. Like the Chinese reactions, the Korean reactions, the English reactions. Like that team fight is just so good. And just for me, just seeing that team fight, I can't not give Caps number 1 after seeing what he did mechanically in that team fight. That's it's as great as you can be in League of Legends. in a day and age where it's a lot more about a team fighting and playing as a team and macro play and not one player just snowballing an advantage like back in 2013, it felt good to see an 11-0-11 Sylas just smashing heads and winning games. And that's why I have Caps number one. But really, it's a coin flip. Both players deserve a round of applause. Both players deserve to be number one.
Mm-hmm. So we have ours flipped. I have Caps at 2 and Huanfeng at 1. So I'll explain why I put Huanfeng at 1. So Caps had, you could argue that Caps had the better series overall for his team in the series. I'm not debating that necessarily. Caps absolutely went Super Saiyan, had one of the best games ever in League of at Worlds, right? We're not debating that. Statistically, they're pretty similar. They had the exact same KDA. They died exactly 4 times. They were pretty similar in kill participation. Like a lot of statistical areas, if you're looking at the numbers, they were pretty on par with each other. For me, years from now, though we may also be talking about that Caps game, that does hinge on him winning Worlds, right? Like we'll mention it in passing years from now, but if G2 don't win Worlds, it's going to be more of a footnote. That Jin ult in the base is going to be mentioned and highlighted and talked about for years and years to come. That will be in every highlight package that you will ever see in Worlds moving forward. So though it might be a little bit, maybe it's a flimsy reason to put somebody at number 1 for that being maybe a root reason, I do believe that because they're statistically similar and because Huanfeng did have a great series other than that moment, for me, the fact that he was also able to create a lasting highlight to that degree, for me, I believe he deserves that just by a hair. And I think that he also, we could argue, and I think it's pretty clear, he leveled up in that series more than Caps did, right? Tyler, I think you're muted. Huanfeng leveled up. Like not people knew who Caps was. People knew what Caps brought to the table. People knew that Caps was one of the best players out there in League of Legends today. Now people are talking about Huanfeng. He is on the lips of many League of Legends fans because of what he did in that series. So for those reasons, I do believe that he earned that number 1 spot looking at the quarterfinals.
It's splitting hairs, right, Arda? It's
just
splitting hairs. It's so close. And I do agree with you on the point of Caps has already had such a legacy. He's been to two World Finals. If in a world where they don't win Worlds, in a world where they lose to Damwon, sure, the Sylas game, this quarterfinal performance kind of gets diluted a bit. We still remember it, but it's not that kind of that. It's not his ascent, right? Where we can look back at Huanfeng's career in 5 years, and if he's a top player, we're going to remember this Jin performance as his ascent. This is his ascent from a star to a superstar. I said this yesterday. A domestic star to an international superstar. And if he wins Worlds, he goes from an international superstar to a goddamn legend, Arda. And we're always going to remember that Jin performance and him inside the enemy's base if he wins Worlds. So it's splitting hairs. Both players are 10 out of 10 in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, totally. And there's a good retort in chat from Romero Jose who says, but that doesn't make Huanfeng the better player. Agreed. Nobody would say that Huanfeng is a better player than Caps, looking at their entire body of work. We are talking simply about the quarterfinal series that they participated in at Worlds 2020 and what happened in the context of that series alone. So for that reason, I feel comfortable putting Huanfeng at number 1. But yeah,
They're
so
both
close.
Gods. They're both
Yeah,
just godly series.
It's like choosing between 2 children, I guess. It's just you just can't. But we do anyway.
Both godly performances. Bravo to both.
Tweet or delete. This is where we offer up some tweets that may or may not be in some sort of fictional saved draft folder somewhere in some Twitter account, and we decide whether we would tweet them or delete them to go into Twitter hell forever. So let's go through them. We have 5 prepared here. Here is number 1. Speaking of claps, here's a tweet. Would you tweet this, Tyler? Caps is one of the top 10 players of all time.
Ooh, I've not seen these, so let me think about it in my mind a second before I react. So I tweeted today that Caps is the greatest Western player of all time. He's the GOAT. No disrespect to Perks, who I think is the second best Western player of all time. But in the last 3 years, Caps has won all 6 domestic titles, won MSI, been to 2 World Finals, and now is in another semifinal, and on could be to 3 straight World Finals, which has only been done by SKT, Faker, Gen.G, Bang, Wolf, those guys before. So it's a really, really tough call. Top 10 all time today. Or am I tweeting this now, or am I tweeting this after Damwon, after Worlds is done? Like, when am I tweeting?
Okay, that's what I want to ask you actually, and I really want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah.
If G2 wins Worlds, okay, hypothetical scenario, G2 wins Worlds, what does that do for Caps' legacy?
Top five.
Of all time, no matter what.
Time, no matter what. He's top 5 no matter what.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Three World Finals. He gets the World Finals. He has an MSI, plethora of domestic titles. He is a top 5 player all time. Doesn't matter if you're Korean, Chinese, North American. There is no North American. It's the top 10, but Western, Eastern, does not matter. He's a top 5 player all time, in my opinion, if he wins Worlds this year, and he's a star of the show. If he has like a, let's say he just plays terribly somehow and he actually carried to a world championship, and then maybe we have a discussion if he's top 5. But there's almost no way that G2 in this formation is making the World Finals or even winning the World Championship without Caps playing at the Caps level. So if Caps wins a world title, he's a top 5 player all time. Right now, would I tweet this? Yeah, I'll tweet this. He's top 10 player all time. I'll say it. I don't know where he is on the top 10.
What do you think, if you were to make a poll on your Twitter account, what do you think the results would be? Yes or no? Like, if you were to put out a poll.
I'd say 70-30. 70-30.
Do you want me to do
that? Do you want me to do that right now? It's like, let's actually just do
why
this
not?
Live on the show. Live on the show.
Why not? We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
Yeah. Is Caps a
Chat is decisively yes. There's been nobody that has said no in chat. I'm gonna guess it's 100% for chat, but I'm curious what Twitter would say. Caps is a top 10 player all time, any region, nothing. Maxis998 in chat says if he wins Worlds, he's definitely top 5, but it's hard. Who throw some other names? Faker, Uzi.
So Faker and Uzi are definitely 1 and 2. Okay, I put this poll at, let's put it at 20 minutes, so we'll have it for the end of the show. Okay. Yes or no. So if you want to go to my Twitter and vote if you think he's a top 10 player all time today, go do that right now. Feed on Fire at Twitter.
I just voted yes.
So Faker, he's number 1. No one's close. Uzi's definitely number 2. Then it gets a bit, and then you have Mada probably number 3. Those probably are locked in 1, 2, 3. And then after that, it gets a lot difficult. I think Rookie's probably top 5. He has the world title. He has the domestic title in Korea and China. So I think it's Rookie, Uzi, Mada, Faker, top 4. And then I think it's a bit harder. And I do think if Caps wins, I think he's on the same level as Rookie. And Rookie, I would say, is solidly number 4, maybe even over Mada these days as a number 3 player all time. So I think the top 4 for me right now, if I did, gun to head, have to do this quickly. Faker's number 1, no debate. Number 2 is Uzi. Number 3 Mada. Number 4 Rookie. Number 5 probably Bang. I think Bang gets overlooked a lot because he's the Scottie Pippen, right? It's always difficult to rate. He has 2 world titles.
Pippen never gets his due. Pippen never gets his due.
So I think it's always gonna be a thing of like Bang was amazing, and he was always on those SKT teams, the team that went to 3 straight World Finals, but he's never going to get the due course of Faker because, again, Faker won without Bang, won the 2013 World title. I think Bang's top 10. I think, again, it's a lot of arguments, but I think the top 4 right now are Faker, Uzi, Mada, Rookie, in any order except Faker. Faker's obviously number 1. I do think if Caps wins this World title, he joins that pantheon of those 4 players, and he's in the top 5. On the other end, though, if Jackie Love wins Worlds and he gets a second title on his second different team, the first player to ever win 2 Summoners Cups on separate teams, he's in the top 5. Ooh. So there's a lot riding on. There's a lot of legacies on the line here from all 4 teams in the semifinals. So very excited to look back on this.
The Mount Rushmore could change.
Ooh, yes.
Depending on the results. I like this. This is great. Another storyline to add to the list. Speaking of storylines, one player is leaving Overwatch League and returning to competitive League of Legends. Would you tweet or delete this? Gamsu will be on a team next year. If you didn't hear the news, Gamsu has left Overwatch League. He played with the Boston Uprising, Shanghai Dragons, and Dallas Fuel for several seasons. Before that, of course, he was a League of Legends pro, and he played in 3 different regions before joining Overwatch League. And now he's left OWL to pursue competitive League of Legends again. So, tell me, Tyler, what do you think of his chances of making a pro team at any level next year?
I would say I would tweet this if this includes academy or our challenger teams. I think he could definitely find himself on a Korean challenger or maybe even a North American challenger team. I would kind of yell at any team that gave him a starting spot after not like he. It's not like Gomsu was a very good player, a very solid player in his day. He was not Marin. It's not like Marin's coming back from retirement and dusting off the keyboard and mouse and Marin's coming back, and then maybe okay, Marin's back. Give him a starting job in the LCK or the LCS. Pro team in terms of a challenger team, sure. I think he deserves. He's one of the most positive, wholesome, good teammate guys. He's a really good in the locker room guy. So I don't think bring him back and giving him a chance on like an academy squad would hurt anyone. I think in the worst case scenario, he's not good enough to start, but he's a player that can help younger players in the academy system in career and a kind of level up. So academy, yes. Pro team, hell no, unless he just is secretly godly at the game still, and he's been practicing quietly underneath his Overwatch League for the last 3 years. But yes, on academy team.
I am 100% tweeting this next one, if nothing else than to impression farm, and I'm also going to tag Nadeshot in it. 100 Thieves Chovy. And in fact, actually, Tyler, in fact, I'm going to Photoshop Chovy's face on 100 Thieves, or I'm going to Photoshop 100 Thieves jersey onto Chovy. 100%. 100% tweeted. Don't even care if it happens. Of course. That's minimum 1,000 likes. You tweet that's 2,000 likes, buddy. Come on, at least.
I mean, they have the money. They have the money, so it's not like money would be an issue. They could offer a dumb $5 million deal if they wanted to for Chovy. It would pair him and Someday up, I guess. Chovy and Someday would be your core, which is, you're going to win. You're most likely going to win LCS with Chovy and Someday. At the very worst, you're still going to Worlds if you have those 2 players on your team. I don't care what kind of mess you bring in from the domestic talent again around those 2 solo laners. You would have to be you would actually have to be inting to not make Worlds with those 2 players as your solo laners. But no, I still think it's going to be LPL Chovy or LCK. I think he either stays with his mentor CV Max, or he takes the big bag to China and he goes to a JDG with Kanavi, or he goes to a random low level LPL team trying to make a splash, right? Where maybe an OMG after years of being kind of once a grand organization in China has kind of lost its luster. Maybe they want to bring in Chovy and re-up their game, or WE wants to bring them in and go from a perennial playoff team to a Worlds contender. So I still am on the side of LPL Chovy. 100 T Chovy though, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, I could interview him more and we can become best friends and go in and out. So that'd be awesome. But I would not tweet that.
You wouldn't, honestly, not even. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you could do it to troll, not because you believe it. I would tweet it just to troll. Of course, I tweet it.
Like the day of free agency, I tweet that just to troll. But overall, I'm not believing in it. So that's my case. That's my case.
Fair, totally fair. But okay, to troll, we're tweeting it. Let's just leave it at that. Just to be total trolls and impression farm. Why not? Gen.G will rebuild their roster for 2021. So this is an interesting one because both their supports are free agents now, Kellen and Life, with contracts expiring. Everyone else is at least signed until 2021. That's the only person actually is Rascal, and the other remaining players are signed until 2022. What do you think happens to Gen.G now?
Stay the same. Stay the course. This is the opposite of our discussion yesterday with Fnatic, right? Where Fnatic, this was their meta. The mid lane wasn't supposed to be the carry. It wasn't the necessary crown jewel in these compositions, and they still weren't able to get past the quarterfinals. Where I'm like, yes, if you want to change Nemesis and have a more flexible, wider champion pool, a better hard carry, then yeah, change them out. And also the 2-year rule of Fnatic mids makes sense, in the pattern wise. But for Gen.G, I think this wasn't their meta. I don't think, obviously, I think you see Clit and you think of Clit as this hard carry. He hasn't really been that great this year. I think he's been decent, but he hasn't been to the highs of his LPL days or even his SKT days of last year. So I think you stay the course. Obviously, you're going to keep Ruler. I think BD did not have a good ending this tournament. I gave him a 1 out of 10, but I still think he's one of the best mid laners in the world. This, again, not their meta. And I think that you can roll the dice on just running this back. Try to G2 it, come back to the same 5, keep life. If you want to let Kellen go, let him go. I think Ruler and Life are still a really strong bottom lane. So I stay the course. Keep these 5 players. It was not your meta. Carrying through the bot lane in this meta is quite difficult. So 2021, roll it back. Let's run it back.
Last one, I think this is very similar to 100 Thieves Chovy, maybe a little bit of trolling, but also some truth here because I do think people will believe this. G2 will win Worlds. Are you ready to make that prediction? I made it before the tournament started, so I'm already tweeting this. What about you, though?
I mean, I picked Damwon to win Worlds, and I've been pretty good on my predictions, Arda. I was 3 of 4. I got the game scores right almost every single game except the Suning JD Gaming game, and obviously JD Gaming was my other finals team to lose to Damwon. I think G2 versus Damwon is going to be a banger. I want it to be a banger. I want to go 5 games. I want trash talk. I want Akali versus Sylas in the mid lane. I want Showmaker to pick Katarina, his old one-trick pony. I want him to ride that pony, face off against Sylas and Caps. I want fireworks. I want the bloodiest, most free-flowing, heavy metal, jazz concert of all time. I just want a banger on bangers. I still think if I'm going to bet on a jungler in this carry jungle meta, I'm going to pick Kanan over Yinkos, even though Yinkos did play well today. So I'm not tweeting that, but I do think whoever wins G2 versus Damwon will win Worlds. I think the winner of that is taking the World Championship. Top has already shown that they can bleed, and Suning, very good team, but a very inexperienced team in a lot of those areas. And Damwon and G2 have both been to war. They've both lost big games at Worlds. They've both got their licks. I think both of those teams are ready to be world champions, where I still think Suning needs more seasoning. I think this Suning team is much more like G2 of last year or Damwon of last year, where they're going to get far, maybe in the finals, but I don't think they get over the hump yet. I think G2 or Damwon will win Worlds. I think it'll be Damwon, but it's damn close, and I cannot wait to see what kind of magic, savagery, bloody action that we're going to see in that series, because I expect fireworks. I cannot wait to see these two teams just trade blows, because Showmaker has been waiting over a year for this moment. G2 have trash talked the LCK to no ends. And if you don't think I think a lot of people see South Korean players as very respectful, not trash talking. Damwon's different. Damwon will trash talk you. Damwon will trash talk G2. Let them go,
especially if they eliminated them from Worlds last year.
Oh yeah,
right.
And they heard all the trash talk. They all heard that Damwon was scrim play. They were a scrim team. They can't play on the big stage. They can't play under the bright lights. They don't have the mental fortitude, Arda. They don't have the mental fortitude to beat G2. And a year of waiting, we finally see the matchup next week. So winner of that goes to the World Finals. Winner of that, I think, wins the World Finals. But right now, it's a 55-45 for me that Damwon wins.
So that is a quick preview of Damwon versus G2. That's happening on Saturday, October 24th with a 6 a.m. scheduled start time in Eastern time. Let's talk a little bit, a quick preview of Suning taking on Top Esports, TES. Suning surprise, TES bleed. Do you feel like they're more on the level here now that Suning upgraded and maybe TES downgraded slightly at the quarterfinal stage?
It's an LPL game, Arda. It's going to be a banger. There's a chance that G2 and Damwon turns out to be a snooze fest somehow. I don't expect it to be, especially with how G2 plays. But it's an LPL, best of 5 at Worlds. It's never let us down before. It's always gonna be messy. It's gonna be a fiesta. We're gonna see teleport to plenty. We're gonna see skirmishes after skirmishes. We're gonna see a game that has 30 kills in the first 20 minutes. I think Top Esports and Karsa kind of showing out in the quarterfinals gives me a bit more hope. I don't think Jackie Love is going to have as bad of a day as he had in the quarterfinals. I don't think Hwang Fei is going to have as good of a quarterfinals as he had. But if it does replicate, if we do have the same top versus the same Suning and Hwang Fei playing at that level and Jackie Love playing at the level he played in the quarterfinals, Suning's going to the World Finals, Arda. Suning will beat that top gaming or top esports. Top esports has to go to their peak. They have to play a 10 out of 10 day. Versus Fnatic, they turned on the Jets later. They turned on the Afterburners, and they got through it, and they barely got through it. If they play that same way against Suning and a team that knows top esports as well as the back of their hands, it's not going to be a reverse sweep. They're seeing a 3-0. So top esports has to be better. So, again, 2 amazing semifinals. There is going to be so much action. 4 teams that all like to bang. They all like to sit in the go into the center of the ring, put up their dukes, and just start wildly swinging, Arda. And that's what we want to see. No offense to Gen.G. I love the classical music, but we're going to see a lot of heavy metal, a lot of hard rock, a lot of jazz, a lot of free-flowing play in the semifinals. Yeah. And we are guaranteed a classic series in one of the next 3 series. We are guaranteed a series that we're never going to forget. I don't know if it's going to be the Damwon versus G2 series, but I guarantee you one of the next 3 series, the semifinal 1, semifinal 2, or the grand final, one of those is going to be remembered forever.
As much as we appreciate a good symphony, it's going to be a symphony of destruction in the semifinals. That reference was for 4 people. The semifinals take place on Saturday and Sunday with a 6 a.m. Eastern start time. Damwon taking on G2 on Saturday, Suning and TES on Sunday. We have 3 shows next week, so we will be doing a full semifinal preview on Friday. That will be an 11 a.m. Eastern start, and then we will be live after both semifinal matchups to get you set to do a little bit of a post game, but also prepare us all for the grand final, which will happen on Halloween, October 31st. Ooh. And we will be live. Ooh, spooky. We will be live on that day as well.
I'm going to be a hot dog.
Are you? Why'd you spoil your suit? You're just telling us like that? Like
we don't know what kind of hot dog I can be. I can be. There's many different hot dogs are now. I've already ordered it. It's in Amazon.
Are there condiments on the hot dog? Like, is there mustard and relish and ketchup? Are you going to save that? We don't know. Okay.
Any more TSM emote flashes, I might have to just douse myself in ketchup during that broadcast. So we'll see.
Oh, my word. Hey, chat, is a hot dog a sandwich? Seriously, I need to know.
No, it's not.
Final thoughts, everybody. How about this? Crazy news, actually. I'm very surprised by this. T1 joins T1. Tyler 1. He has joined an organization. He's joined T1. What a story Tyler 1 has had.
Just an awesome story.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be here and just talk about how like he's the perfect human. Like he's had his faults. He's definitely has faults. We can't look past his toxic behavior. And I've interviewed him plenty of times in person, met him in person, seen him without the camera, right? I've seen him with the camera off, him in real person, as a real person as he can be. I mean, he's still Tyler 1 at the end of the day. It really is the old cliche saying of, people on camera are only 120% version of themselves, right? Mm-hmm. It's still him at the end of the day. But I think it's really awesome. I think T1 and Joe Marsh are really looking to make a global splash. Obviously, Tyler 1 is the biggest League of Legends streamer, one of the biggest streamers on Twitch. He could stream. He literally, Arda, did you know this? Tyler 1 once streamed himself trying to do a backflip. He never did a backflip before. He went outside, put on his webcam, and for the next 3 hours, he attempted to learn how to do a backflip. That's all the stream was.
Did he do it?
No, but he got over 20. He had over 20,000 people. He almost broke his neck a few times.
Oh gosh, that doesn't sound safe at all.
When you're that entertaining, that 20,000 plus people will watch you try to do a backflip. Like he could have easily I was about to say he could have easily quit when he got banned from Riot and indefinitely banned, most likely perm banned from the game.
Sure,
he could have quit, but he went to Variety and he's done everything possible to get to this level. He worked his ass off. And you've mentioned this off camera, like he spends a lot of time with fans. He gives extra attention to his younger audience and makes sure that they get a good experience in meeting him and everything. But he certainly comes with baggage. I mean, even chat reading it right now, there aren't a lot of fans of Tyler 1 in chat anyway, or at least they
remember his past. Like, how much of a changed person is he now? Like, where is Tyler One today versus where he was a few years ago?
I mean, when he was I'm not gonna say he's not toxic now. He can still be toxic. I mean, you watch his stream, he's still cursing out players and everything. He's not doing it in game chat now, so he doesn't get banned. But he
is he doing it with the slant of entertainment, or is he genuinely a troll and he likes to get on people's nerves? Like, I don't watch too much Tyler One, so I'm just curious.
I think most streamers, if you look at them, you can say they're somewhat toxic. But I will say, I'll tell you a story to kind of show what I think of Tyler as the guy behind the camera. It was at the LCS finals a few years ago in Oakland. I'm rolling up, and it's a day where security is at its breach. Like, they have the LCS finals at the Oracle Arena, and right next door at the Oakland Coliseum, there's an A's game going on. So there's about 70, 80,000 people just running around this parking lot. And there's two big lines waiting outside when I roll up to the Oracle Arena to get in for my press coverage of the LCS finals. And there's one ridiculously long line, and then there's a shorter line. And I'm like, God damn, do I really have to wait in this long line for over an hour to get into the arena? And then I realized that the line that was super long, a mile long, was not going inside the arena. It was not going through the metal detector. It was a line that was right by the metal detector. And at the front of the line, instead of a metal detector, it was Tyler One. And he was taking pictures. It was probably like 85, 90 degrees outside. And he was taking pictures and talking to every single person there. He was shaking their hands. He was putting on the act. He was saying his catchphrases. If a fan wanted him to say a line, he would say the line. He was gracious. He took pictures. He took time to talk to his younger fans and give them the time of day. And I remember most fondly was the security guards were mad, Arda. They were like, "You're making a ruckus here. We are so over. we're so understaffed because of how many events are going on in this parking lot. You can't do this." And even though they were screaming at him to stop, he continued going, and he kept talking to his fans. He kept one by one taking a photo, shaking hands, taking pictures, saying the catchphrases. So I don't think you have to like Tyler One. I'm not going to disparage anyone for not liking him. It's fine to find him loud or toxic, or you feel like he hasn't changed. I think that's totally fine in your right to feel that way. For me, though, as who has talked to him on a human level, who has interviewed him, who has seen him interact with people off the camera. Another time is we were walking past the corridors in the Oakland Arena, and he stopped and said, "Hey, I remember you from yesterday. Thank you so much, Riot employee," and knew his name and shook his hand, and nothing to prompt that. He just said hello and thanked someone who had helped them the day before. And it was the same person I've probably walked by and interacted with thousands of times during my years at the LCS. I don't know that person's name. I never learned their name, but Tyler One took their time to remember this person's name and to thank them the next time they saw them the next day. And there's those little things that I really do think that he is a good person. He's not a perfect person by any means. None of us are. And if you don't have to like him, but I think you do have to respect his hard work. And you can laugh, streaming lol, he takes his breaks and all that, but the guy grinded, and the guy went from pretty much having his entire career ripped away by being banned from the game he loves to making a career out of it, and now being signed by the winningest League of Legends franchise in history that is co-owned by the GOAT Faker. We are now going to have Faker Tyler One content. So it's incredible. It's incredible.
As long as they go to the world's, grossest restaurant in Las Vegas and do content there again. What is that? The Heart Attack Grill or whatever it's called?
Grill, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I will say this, coming from the world of professional wrestling, I do appreciate the character aspect. Tyler One to me is a character. He reminds me of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, not in their mannerisms, but more so in the way that he presents himself. Like you said, the volume dialed up to 12. I respect Joe Marsh as an executive too. So he's making good decisions with his organization. But yeah, if Tyler One is putting on an act, totally fine with that, because at the end of the day, there are other acts out there, and that's just a good way to bring attention on yourself and make money. And Tyler One's done very well. So, good vibes on that. Yeah, kudos for Tyler One for making money.
T1.
And I like the congruence of that. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
So 4 teams remain, and the semifinals will be happening next week. Don't forget, we got 3 shows, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so we will be on the air live on those 3 days. Friday, it'll be a semifinal preview, and then we'll be on after both semifinal matchups on Saturday and Sunday. Wake Up Worlds. Boy, we're coming to an end, man. We are winding
20
down.
plus shows. We've had 20 plus shows, Arda. 20 plus shows, and we still have 5 or so left. It's been a wild ride. 25 hours of content by the end of the month. Man, that's a lot of work.
It is. We have a little bit to go. So we will see you next week. We're going to take a few days off. We will see you on Friday. Tyler won. Yeah, let's go.
When does NA play, Arda? When does NA play? That's the real question.
Few months, maybe. Yes.
Hopefully. Oh, please no. Please no. No more.